Your feeder is already busy this morning. A northern cardinal lands first sharp red against the soft gray light, and you notice it doesn't hesitate. It goes straight to the same perch, the same feeder edge, like it has been there before. A chickadee follows seconds later, bouncing in without scanning the yard the way it used to when it was younger in the season. Even the sparrows settle into their usual corners almost instantly, as if the yard has already been mapped in their minds. But what's actually happening in your backyard is far more specific and far more unsettling in a quiet way than most people realize. These birds are not arriving to explore your yard anymore. They are arriving with information already stored, shared, tested, and remembered long before they land. Most people assume birds simply discover feeders individually. They're wrong. The reality is that your yard has already been described by other birds long before the first wing beat reaches it. And that changes everything you think you know about who is watching whom. Welcome back to Feather in Mind. Subscribe before you leave. What you're about to learn will change the way you understand every bird that visits your yard. Stay until the end, because you'll discover how this silent information network shapes which birds stay, which leave, and which never come at all. Number 1. The yard has a reputation before you see the bird. The claim is simple. Birds do not treat your yard as unknown space. They treat it as pre-labeled territory with social meaning already attached. Research from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology shows that many feeder birds, especially chickadees and sparrows, rely heavily on social learning when selecting feeding sites. That means one bird's experience becomes another bird's expectation. What's happening is reputation transfer. A bird that safely feeds in your yard leaves behind behavioral signals, not physical, but learned associations. Other birds observe its return rate, its stress level, even its vocal behavior after feeding. These observations become shared knowledge. In cognitive terms, this is called social referencing, a mechanism also documented in studies from Cambridge University on avian decision-making networks. For the birds outside your window, this means your yard is not neutral. It is categorized before arrival: safe, risky, rewarding, or unstable. What this means for your yard is this: every consistent visitor is quietly voting on what your space becomes in the eyes of the next bird. Number 2. Birds talk about danger without you ever hearing the full story. The claim is direct. Alarm calls do not stay local. They travel through species networks like shared warnings. Studies from Ohio State University show that mixed species flocks actively interpret each other's alarm calls, even when the signals differ acoustically. A chickadee alarm can be understood by newthatches, titmice, and even some sparrows. What's actually happening is cross-species decoding. Birds are not just hearing sound, they are translating urgency patterns. Frequency, repetition, and timing all carry meaning that gets passed along. When one bird in your yard experiences a threat, a cat movement, a sudden shadow, a hawk pass, it does not just flee, it broadcasts. That broadcast reshapes how other birds treat your yard for hours or even days. Arrival timing changes. Feeding duration shortens. Perch height increases. For the birds outside your window, this means your yard is constantly being updated like a live safety report. What this means for your yard is this one moment of disturbance can rewrite how an entire visiting population behaves without you ever noticing the original event. Number 3. Birds remember your yard as a route, not a location. The claim is that many backyard birds navigate through mental maps that include feeders, cover points, and escape paths, not just isolated feeding spots. Research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences on avian spatial memory shows that birds like jays, sparrows, and chickadees maintain detailed spatial recall of environments they repeatedly visit. What's happening in your yard is mapping reinforcement. Every safe landing, every uninterrupted feeding session strengthens the internal map. Over time, birds stop evaluating your yard as a risk environment and start treating it as a known route segment. This is why arrivals feel faster, why hesitation disappears, Why some birds appear confident on landing. Their brains are not recalculating your yard each time. They are retrieving it. For the birds outside your window, this means your yard becomes part of a larger travel network across neighborhoods. What this means for your yard is this: once your space enters a bird's mental map, it stops being a discovery and starts becoming a destination with memory attached. Number 4. Birds copy each other faster than they learn on their own. The claim is that many feeder birds arrive already influenced by the behavior of others they've never met directly. Work from the University of Washington on social learning in urban bird populations shows that birds frequently adopt feeding preferences by observing distant flock behavior rather than direct interaction. What's actually happening is observational inheritance. A bird sees where others cluster, how long they stay, and what they avoid. It does not need direct contact, only pattern recognition. In your yard, this creates a shortcut effect. If early visitors treat your feeder as stable, later arrivals skip hesitation entirely. If early visitors show avoidance, the pattern spreads just as quickly. For the birds outside your window, this means individual experience is less important than group behavior signals. What this means for your yard is this: the first few birds each day are not just visitors, they are decision influencers for every bird that follows behind them. Number 5. Birds remember how your yard made them feel. The claim is that return behavior is not just driven by food, it is shaped by emotional association with safety and predictability. Studies from Cornell Lab of Ornithology on feeder fidelity show that birds return more frequently to locations where feeding experiences are consistent and low stress, even when alternative food sources exist nearby. What's actually happening is reinforcement of emotional memory. The bird's nervous system tracks not just survival outcomes, but stress levels during feeding. A calm experience becomes a preference signal. Over time, your yard becomes categorized internally as low effort, low threat, which increases return probability. For the birds outside your window, this means your yard is not just evaluated logically, it is felt. What this means for your yard is this: birds are not only remembering where they ate, they are remembering how safe they felt while doing it. Number 6. Birds are connected through an invisible information network. The claim is that your yard is part of a shared communication system that operates through observation, memory, and indirect signaling. Research synthesized across Cambridge University and field studies in mixed species flocking behavior shows that birds constantly adjust movement based on group-level cues rather than isolated decisions. What's actually happening is distributed awareness. No single bird controls the flow of information, but each one contributes to it. One bird's hesitation becomes another bird's caution. One bird's confidence becomes another bird's permission. In your yard, this creates a living feedback loop. Behavior repeats, stabilizes, or shifts based on accumulated signals. For the birds outside your window, this means arrival is never fully independent. It is always informed by a wider behavioral field. What this means for your yard is this: every bird you see is both an individual and a message carrier for every bird that will come after it. There is something quietly profound about realizing this. When a bird lands in your yard, already confident, already oriented, already certain of where to go, it is not just reacting to food. It is stepping into a space that has already been defined through memory, through shared experience, and through invisible agreement among other lives. And in that recognition, something unexpected becomes clear. Your yard is not just being visited, it is being understood. Some birds return because it is efficient, others return because it is safe. But some return because the space itself has become familiar in a way that is hard to describe without emotion. Science can map the mechanisms: memory, learning, signaling, reinforcement. But what it cannot fully flatten is the feeling of being part of that continuity. The sense that your presence, your routine, your consistency matters more than you ever assumed. When a cardinal pauses before feeding, it is not just assessing risk, it is checking a memory that your yard helped create. And that is where the science meets something quieter. Your yard is not just seen by birds, it is remembered by them. And in that remembering, you become part of their survival story, not as a threat, not as a resource alone, but as a pattern they trust enough to return to again. The core truth is simple. Your yard is not a passive space. It is a living memory shared between every bird that visits it. Tell me in the comments, which bird in your yard seems to arrive already knowing exactly what it's doing? I read everyone. If this made you think of someone who watches birds with you, share it with them or for them. I'll see you in the next one.